You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. The relentless push by PMC depositors protesting against a clampdown on their ability to withdraw their own money may just lead to a huge change in the way cooperative banks are run. Depositors, stung by a scam in the Punjab Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, rushed into the BJP headquarters in Mumbai today, demanding a meeting with Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who was due to speak on the upcoming assembly elections in Maharashtra. The protesting customers are demanding relief after the RBI stopped clamped down on withdrawal limits. In fact, they can withdraw just 25,000 rupees of their own money in the scam-ridden cooperative bank. Here's what some of the depositors said today.
4,000 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी आपने मिल चुकी है, ईडी और ईओडब्ल्यू बोल रहा है, आप वो ले लीजिए, बैंक आप हैंडओवर ले लीजिए, हमारे पैसे जो है वो रिलीज कर लीजिए.
But about the kind of proceeding which EOW is doing, there has been attachment by ED.
We don't want to get into this now. Why do we get into this? Let them do whatever they want to do, release our funds.
But the agencies say, the ED or EOW say that there is a procedure to the attachment, there'll be conviction, and that is something which will take time.
Sir, are we over there? Did we sanction the loan? Our money was in the bank. Someone did.
Okay, the big takeaway though was when the finance minister met the depositors and promised that she would speak to the RBI governor on the case. The RBI is effectively the authority that can actually take calls in the cases of cooperative banks. But the finance ministry will also set up a committee to see whether changes are needed in the laws that govern multi-state cooperative banks like PMC. Let's listen into the finance minister's assurance.
I will once again, I've already been talking with the Governor of Reserve Bank. Once again this evening, I shall talk to him and convey the sense of urgency and distress that the clients of PMC have expressed before me. And I shall request him to expedite the clearing off or giving permission for withdrawal of their monies which are deposited. So I shall talk to the Reserve Bank Governor this evening about it. I have asked the secretaries of my ministry, both the Department of Economic Affairs and the Banking Secretary, to study in detail as to what is happening. Of course, the representative from the Reserve Bank also will be in the meeting to understand where there were shortcomings, what happened, and also to therefore, if necessary, look at the ways in which the respective acts will have to be amended.
So why is this important? Because we could see some legislation coming in as early as the winter session. So in just a couple of months from now, that would rehaul the way cooperative banks are run. Right now, the mandate of this committee is for multi-state urban cooperative banks. But could it be expanded? Would there be a need also to revive or relook at the controversial FRDI bill that died a quick death last year? It's a bill that looked at a bail-in clause. That means depositors have to get together and save a bank that's in the doldrums. What about increasing insurance for your deposits? Right now, just 1 lakh rupees is insured. To speak on all this and more, I'm joined today by Sandeep Parekh, founder of FinSec Law Advisors. Tamal Bandopadhyay, senior journalist and author, also speaks with us today, as does Sundar Balakrishnan, PMC Bank customer. Welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us. Sandeep, let me come to you first just to get a sense of what are the laws that this committee could look at. Now, the structure of this committee is that the two finance secretaries will be there, the deputy governor of the Reserve Bank will be there, other officials were needed, and they will look at whether they need to tweak existing legislation. So, what is the purview of what this committee could look at?
So, I think, there are two sets of laws. One is, of course, RBI, which is very much a central subject. RBI has domain over cooperative banks. And that's become a clear position in law. The other is cooperatives fall under the state subject. So each state really is supposed to regulate the cooperative aspect of the banks. Now, how is that going to be resolved? I think the government needs to look at whether they kind of need to move to the concurrent list, which is of course a very long and tortuous process. I think a more immediate solution would be to tweak RBI regulations so that their level of supervision becomes higher. And the two things which you mentioned, I think insurance being raised should be very, very quickly done. I think because 1 lakh was, I think, the insurance which was guaranteed almost 2 decades back, and that has not been even adjusted for inflation. So I think that should be done, number one. And in the case of this particular bank, if 4,000 crores has been attached, and there's other good assets which are available, I think they should release at least prorated amounts to the depositors, and I think that would pacify at least many of the depositors.
Okay, so there's a couple of things that we could hope to see. Tamal, the reason I bring up the FRDI bill is because it, in a sense, was for a situation like the one we've seen in PMC. What happens if banks start going belly up? Is there a plan in place? Do you think we need to revisit any sort of legislation like this? Of course, no depositors are ever going to agree to say, let's all put our money and bail in this bank, especially when you know in a case like PMC Bank that there's a huge scam involved.
Yeah, I mean, two different parts. One is you're talking about that act and the bail-in clause, which the government wanted to introduce, and there were a lot of discussion and debate. But it didn't work out because it's a very sensitive thing. Essentially, if you are an unsecured depositor, is an unsecured, and as and when things get resolved, you get money, you have to wait for it, so on and so. That's a separate story. But the more critical part, when you said that what needs to be done, do we need to tweak various kind of acts to ensure that depositors are safe and no cooperative bank goes belly belly up. I would say it's not tweak, actually you need to overhaul the entire cooperative bank system. If, and I have my sympathy for the depositors, but if cooperative bank is meant for the people of lower means and the so-called that particular section of the society, then why do people keep so much of money in cooperative banks, crores and crores of rupees? If you look at the profile of depositors there, why would they keep the money? Is it an investment vehicle? Are there no other banks in the country? You need to rush to cooperative banks. So is there something fishy? Is the cooperative bank traditionally been a vehicle for keeping money at a place which is outside the scanner of the so-called investigative agencies, so on and so forth? So that's the question. In fact, post demonetization, if you see in the kind of money which was exchanged, the old money kept an exchange of the cooperative banks, it's kind of enormous thing. So cooperative bank is a sort of animal. Actually, we need to take a relook at, I would say, each and every aspect. And if you allow me a little time, just look at the thing, how much capital you need to float a cooperative bank.
I'll come back to you.
Rupees.
I'll come
it
back
has
to
not
you,
changed
but
since 1949.
No, absolutely. The insurance part is a valid point, but Tamal, that is there for all banks, not just cooperative banks. So, that is a broader question, and I will come back to you for more details. But since you've made a point about depositors, and in a sense alluded to their intentions, saying why have they put so much money in cooperative banks, I have a depositor here with me who wants to respond. I think it's only fair we give him an opportunity to. Yes, Mr. Sundar Balakrishnan. Now we know that some of these cooperative banks gave a slightly higher, interest rate on deposits, and there has been an attempt to paint depositors as quote unquote, and I use this word carefully, a bit greedy. What do you say to that?
See, I'll tell you the statement Tamal sir made. I'll tell you the reason why people go to cooperative bank. One of the main reason is the service given by them. This bank gave such a good service, 24/7, morning 8 to night 8, and they come to your house to pick up everything, whatever that you want. And what is the interest percentage which is higher? Just 0.5%. We are not looking at 0.5%. We are looking at the service. You go to any nationalized bank, you don't get any service at all, and they don't work. Saturday, just Saturdays, second and fourth Saturday off. Sunday off, bank holidays off. These people are open 24/7. That is the main reason we go there. And it is not that we are putting all our money there. We are not PMC Bank management. We put in each and every bank, we spread our risk. But unlike PMC Bank, who has deposited every, given loans to one single corporate, 73% of the whole, money that is available with them is given to only one corporate. We are not that. But we keep such accounts in cooperative banks only because of the service. We get whatever that we want.
No,
but
I have another counter. Tamal, and of course you will respond to what Mr. Sundar is saying as well. It's open for business. It's open for business and for anyone who wants to put in their deposits.
Why they have given banking license? Why they have given banking license?
So is it really fair to say that why they're putting their money in there? It's open for anyone to put it. You can put it, I can put it.
Cancel the license and close the cooperative banks. No, it's very good.
Okay, no, let Tamal respond. Let Tamal respond to that.
Yeah, listen, I'm happy, I'm glad to hear that the excellent service, but as I said that cooperative bank as an animal by and large, there are exceptions like say Mandesi Cooperative Bank in Maharashtra or Siva Cooperative Bank in Ahmedabad. They have been doing phenomenal service for the so-called bottom of the pyramid people. Yeah. So they remain there. I mean, for the self-help group and creation of enterprise, entrepreneurs at that level. So they are doing a phenomenal job. But if you see by and large the cooperative bank, it's rotten from top to bottom. Right from, you see the appointment of board and there's appointment of board and the chairman, the chairman and the executive positions. They are all done by the respective state government. There is nothing called fit and proper criteria applicable there. The appointment by the auditors, again RBI has no role to play, is the respective state government. You see there is no HR policy. Have you ever seen the advertisement to look for employees? No, they are all interconnected. I need my employees, my relations, so on and so. In fact, the more you have, recommendations of the board of directors, the more chances of you getting into the job. And once you get into the job, you are used by them. Is there any loan policy? Most of the borrowers, when they become a defaulter in a normal commercial bank, they go to cooperative bank to raise money to pay off, to remain in the so-called overgreening. Yeah. That happened between commercial banks and cooperative banks, and that happened within the cooperative bank systems. And if I am not mistaken, for the most of the cases of the loans, if not all, commissions are involved in cash in kind. So whether it's a loan policy, whether it's the HR policy, whether it's a board,
agreed that there's a lot
each and every level, that things are what it should not be done.
But Tamal, agreed that a lot is rotten, yes. But is that the depositor's fault?
So you need to change.
Is that
as I said, 1 lakh.
Fault?
Can I answer him?
No, I mean, as I said, sorry, just 1 second. As I said, if it's a Mumbai, the financial capital, and you have too many choices, I think you need to have a financial literacy drive that don't go to near to the most of the cooperative banks.
No.
There are many other banks. There are 24/7, all the ATMs, and if I am understand correctly, it is a buyer's market. The banking now is a buyer's market, particularly on the liability side. On the assets, if you are looking for a loan, you may not get a loan. They may not entertain you. But if you want to keep money, people will come to your house and take your money. So I don't agree with the thing that on the liability side for keeping deposits, you need to have they are all banks are the same.
Okay.
They are all
quick
equally
response,
aggressive to grab your deposits.
Quick response.
When it comes to taking money as a borrower, you may have problem.
Quick response from
See, Tamal, I'll tell you the problem where it is. It is not the fault of depositors. It is the way the cooperative bank is working. It is all politically controlled. The whole political class controls this cooperative bank. And the RBI also cannot push to a certain extent because political class is involved. And especially when the loans are granted based on the influence or whatever that you call, these loans are given to people who are politically affiliated. So that is where the problem comes up. In this case, the chairman of HDIL is the same chairman of the PMC Bank also.
I must come in. You seem like, from listening to you, a very financially literate depositor and customer. Then you are in a sense proving Tamal's point. Why would you then and all my sympathies with you, but why would you then put your money in a cooperative bank?
See, I'll tell you, I have been banking with this bank for the last 7 years. 7 years. Nothing has happened. Okay. I know one customer who was the first customer in 1996. 1996. We never knew that this is going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. You know, you don't.
And I'll tell you one thing, one more instance. This point of this bank getting closed was known to few people, because if you see 5% of the deposit holders withdrew maximum amount within 1 week before
Yeah.
the closure.
Yeah.
How did they know this?
This is loot. This is loot, and this scam can actually happen anywhere. Sandeep,
Yeah.
Sandeep, I want to come, back to the broad picture what the finance minister has said, because there are two aspects to this, and let's not go into blaming the depositors and customers. Something that's open for business, then it's the regulators' job to ensure that it's not running like a scam. So, of course, role of RBI, etc. Did they know what was going on? But now let's talk about the legislative part of it. And an important point Tamal is making, that let's rehaul the whole system. Maybe we need to relook at why these cooperative banks existed in the first place and how they're being run today.
So, as I said, this is a subject which doesn't have easy solutions. FM has certainly set up a committee which will look at this, but as I said, cooperative societies do not fall under the central subject, they fall under the state subject, under the Constitution of India. So, the only control which the central government can have is through the RBI. Having said that, I think it's, banks are very critical, they're both leveraged and very critical institutions in any financial system. And therefore, any fragility or a bank run, even on one bank, can have huge and catastrophic impact on the economy. So I think it's time government looks at it much more deeply, shut down at least some of the cooperative banks if necessary. And certainly RBI has the power to declare either specific people or the entire the board of the a particular cooperative bank not fit and proper. They have complete full supervisory powers over that. Mainly because they do not appoint an auditor doesn't mean they don't have. And I think the basic problem with RBI is I think that they have bandwidth issues, because there are just so many of the cooperative banks that they're not able to kind of regulate them effectively. So I think it has to be, as I said, there are issues with the constitutional mechanism, and therefore by just saying the government should have new laws, I don't think that will that is going to be so easy.
No, they're saying that they will set up a committee to look at whether there is a need to tweak laws. I think it's an opportunity to talk about whether we need to look at how cooperative banks function in all. The PMC depositors have suffered, but at the end of this, if this leads to more light on how cooperative banks function and maybe saves a couple of other banks from going through depositors going through the same hell, then maybe something good can come out of it. That's really the hope at the end of the day. Mr. Balakrishnan, if that so happens, then you guys would have done a huge service.
I'll tell you, Tamal, if you remember, in 2015, when this government came into power, they revived 23 cooperative banks by infusing 2,375 crores. And these were all cooperative banks which are operating in Uttar Pradesh. Okay. Yes. There is a certain agenda behind reviving this, because these are all controlled by politicians. If they want, they can do it. Now today, State Bank of India has written off 76,600 crores of loans of 220 defaulters, only 220 defaulters, whose each default is 100 crores. 100 crores. So, if they want, they can do it. But the problem is, this government, when it wants money, RBI is under their control. They want 1.76 lakh crores, their RBI is under control. But when it wants to revive, RBI is not under the control. This double standard will not work. We are sufferers at the end of the day. And today we were expecting a lot of things from the finance minister. Nothing happened.
Mr. Balakrishnan, think about it. You're effectively asking, I understand your pain, but you're effectively asking the government to, in a sense, subsidize the loans that the Vadhvans have taken.
I am not saying, let them do whatever they want. But they have infused 2 lakh crores, they have infused to all the banks, nationalized banks. They have done it, right?
So you're saying that why can't they do it
here? Why can't they do it here?
Okay, Tamal, you want to respond to that? You want to respond to that point?
No, 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 no. Look, I'm not getting into any kind of political insinuations because I'm not qualified to do that.
Yeah.
But by and large, cooperative bank as an animal is a political animal, and it is used by different political parties, different depending on the influence in different regions. Yes. As I said, the appointment to giving loans. Have you ever seen any cooperative banks giving tenders for all those kind of stuff they are buying? That's also done among the related parties and transactions and all. So wherever there is a money, there is all interconnectedness, and politics play a very critical role. So the point is, you can't tweak, you need to do huge overhauling. Reserve Bank of India has been if you remember, post Madhapura crisis in early this century, some 18-19 years back, there was MOU signed between RBI and respective state governments. That was the beginning, and then till recent, I think 2017, they got into a board of management sort of new creation, etc., etc. But the point is, as I said, maybe now it's high time PMC has sent all my sympathy with the depositors and all, but probably they should be more careful where they are keeping money. That's a separate story. But let the district cooperative banks and the primary cooperative banks be there, because they serve a different purpose. But the multi-state cooperative banks, we don't need them.
Yeah.
They can become small finance bank. In fact, RBI has been actually trying to woo them. And if you remember, last month RBI has given the draft guidelines keeping the small finance bank on tap, which means there is no window, you can come anytime and apply for it. And for cooperative bank, that is before the PMC crisis blew up, before the PMC crisis happened, he said, for you, you don't need 100, 200 crore, you need 100 crore. So probably, particularly the multi-state cooperative banks, the kind of service they do, I think can be served by the small finance bank. They don't need to be there.
These banks
they should be compulsorily converted into small finance banks.
That's a really
and for other cooperative banks,
that's really a good point. The question is that the licenses on tap you're talking
and
about.
the other banks at the district,
all I was saying, Tamal, sorry to interrupt, was that the license you're talking about, do these cooperative banks want to give themselves up to the kind of scrutiny that comes with it? Perhaps not. So that's something that we also need to look at. Since we have limited time left in this debate, I just want to quickly pivot to another important issue which goes beyond cooperative banks, which affects everyone who has money in any bank, and another point which was highlighted by the whole PMC case. If things go downhill, effectively there is a 1 lakh rupee insurance for your deposits, no matter how much money is there. Let's talk a bit about how we need to relook at this figure. Sandeep, let me come back to you on this very important point. Do you think that this needs to be a priority? How would the mechanics of this work? Who would insure, deposits, and to what extent?
So I think it should certainly be in the region of either 5 lakhs or 10 lakh rupees. Of course, it will come with a slightly additional cost involved in terms of higher payments by the banks by way of premium. But I think, just to take the example of this case, RBI passed direction initially, if you remember, of just 1,000 rupee withdrawal in a 6-month period. Now, that was not at all necessary because anyway, even assuming that even a single rupee was not recoverable, the insurance company, which is also managed by, under the aegis of RBI, would have paid 1 lakh rupees to each depositor. So I think they should have immediately allowed a lakh rupees withdrawal for a 6-month period. And then I think they could have liberalized it more. Once EOW is attached, properties worth 4,000 crores, I think it could have been increased. So at least the smallest of the depositors do not face the brunt. So I think this could have been done. RBI could have handled it a little better from depositors' perspective.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Balakrishnan, on the extent of insurance for deposits, and in a broader picture, Sandeep is talking about 5 to 10 lakh rupees. But can we envisage, in your view, a situation where you insure, if not all, a proportion of the deposits? And I'm sure customers, if given a choice, would be willing to pay the charges for that.
See, I'll tell you one thing. So far, in the last 30 years, 167 cooperative banks have closed.
Yeah.
You tell me one instance, I know only one instance of South Indian Cooperative Bank probably have been paid by way of insurance. how many banks, cooperative banks have been, depositors have been paid this insurance amount?
Yeah,
None.
that's a good question.
So they are only living on the insurance premium. Now my point, what I am saying is, this insurance premium what they are taking, let them increase, not an issue, but charge it on the people to whom they are giving loans. Recover from them, because ultimately they are going to default, we are not going to default. Take it from them. Why we should bear the brunt there? Let the loan defaulters who are defaulting, let them pay the premium.
Okay, Tamal, I want you to come in, with some inputs and insights on the whole insurance amount, which goes beyond cooperative banks. I know cooperative banks have a bad rap, but honestly, the entire banking system is not in the pink of hell right now. I'll just leave it at that. So it would be great if this amount was increased in any case.
Even LIC.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go into doomsday scenario, but the fact is that we need.
There is a very big exposure today. 10.7 lakh crores have been invested in loss-making public sector units.
Yeah, no, I know, but let's just right now, since we're focusing on PMC and its meaning for cooperative banks and the banking system on the whole, from a very consumer end kind of a situation. Tamal, let's come to the insurance part of the puzzle.
So just a quick points. I started bank reporting sometime in 1995, mid 95. I have not come across a single bank going under. I am talking about normal commercial bank. Not a single bank has gone under. Cooperative bank is a different story altogether. I think from 90s, there were times in India in 60s and 70s, there are many banks went under. But from 90s, last 30 years, not a single bank has been allowed to fail. Wherever there is a case that a bank is about to collapse, Reserve Bank of India comes in the picture behind the scenario and plays the matchmaker and makes sure that it's been taken over by some other bank and got merged into this. And this is one of the reasons why the government has not done much on the DICGC, I mean the insurance front. If I remember correctly, post Lehman in 2008, there are discussion in Parliament that should 1 lakh be raised, and then ultimately did not happen because government at that time felt that if you raise it, then people might lose confidence in the banking system. People might think that there are banks which could fail, but in reality we don't allow any banks to fail. That's one part of the story. Second part, if you see that DICGC outgo religiously, it goes only for the failed cooperative banks. Only for the failed cooperative banks, because no other bank has failed. So I don't think only PMC, on a larger issue you can took with an inflation neutralization, whether should it be raised or not. But it just because a cooperative bank has failed, I mean it's not failed as yet, we do not know whether it will go for liquidation. And there are many people have lost their money in cooperative bank. Even if you see even the current fiscal year also, how much DICGC money has gone.
That's an important point.
So yes, probably.
But then let's come back to the point.
Yes, probably you need to take a relook at it.
So since I need to wrap up, so this seems to be a largely cooperative bank problem. Since there is now a committee with a broad timeline, we're talking about winter session of Parliament. There was, of course, the Finance Minister made it very clear that they would be working towards this. Let's wait and see if this is going to be the trigger to relook at the entire multi-state urban cooperative bank system. It needs a close, hard look. Professionally managed banks is the least we can expect. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the first discussion tonight on the India Development Debate. When we come back, all eyes on the Modi-Xi visit, which starts from tomorrow. That 2-day informal summit begins tomorrow. What can we expect? Is it going to be about trade, Kashmir in the backdrop? All of that analysis coming up next.